And we're with James Ashley, Senior European Economist at RBC Capital Markets. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Now, we seem to have, of course, some kind of resolution for the banks. What we still don't know is exactly what will be the leverage on the EFSF, how they're going to finance it, and we don't know what the end haircut, so the hit that bondholders will take if Greece were to default. Are you a little bit nervous ahead of the summit on Wednesday?
A little bit, yeah. I think what we've seen so far from the headlines that have emerged from yesterday is that the options have been narrowed down. We've taken out the ECB option on the EFSF, and there's been progress on the bank recapitalisation, but there's still a lot of things to be decided. I think we will hear a substantive statement on Wednesday night, and markets will obviously digest that on Thursday, but obviously there's a lot to be decided. The issues that are on the table are very important, and there's a lot of things still to be discussed.
So what is the one thing that actually you want to hear from leaders on Wednesday? Is it, first of all, the debt write-down? Do we need to make sure that it's 50 or 60% instead of the 21% we agreed in July?
I think a lot of clarity on that would certainly help. There's the Greek situation, not just the PSI element of it, but the Greek situation, the bailout, the need for further top-ups of the second agreed bailout back in July has been weighing on sentiment in recent months. But at the same time, I think another very important element is how to boost the EFSF, the bailout fund. The option that's been ruled out, it would seem, is the ECB's balance sheet.
Because the ECB were dead against it?
I think so, and also partly because legally it would have been very difficult. You're essentially allowing for monetary financing, I think, indirectly, and that would be against the EU treaties, and I think the German Constitutional Court would have struck that down. So that's been ruled out. So we're now left, it would seem, with two options on the table, using a single-purpose vehicle involving the IMF, or alternatively using this insurance-type vehicle. It's important to note that the two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. They could use both vehicles and split the EFSF's capabilities.
James, in terms of the insurance-type vehicle, it will all go pear-shaped if France actually loses its AAA credit rating.
It's not just about the credit ratings. I have a problem with the insurance-type proposals as they are anyway, because I think it drives a wedge between the primary and the secondary markets. What you do with an insurance-type scheme is you allow for easy financing of the sovereigns. Well, that's great, but what you have is you then issuing new debt, which is insured. The old debt, which the banks are still holding, is uninsured. So you have a two-tier market, new debt versus old debt, and that's unhelpful. That creates dislocations and dysfunctionalities.
But so your preferred option would be what, through the IMF? But it seems they've suggested that actually, if there's not a haircut of at least 50%, they don't want to get involved.
I think this SPV can be explored further. I think there are a lot of options on the table for that, because essentially what you're doing is using the EFSF to tempt in outside money, and that can then be very powerful. And you use the IMF's credibility exactly to ensure that the bonds that are being bought are only from the countries which are sticking to very strict fiscal targets. But you quite rightly say that the IMF and a lot of other aspects of that need to be worked out in terms of the conditionality that would be attached to it.
James, literally in 10 seconds, I know it's a difficult question, the banks were nowhere near the end troubles for them.
I think we're far from the end. I think a lot of it will be not just the recaps, which we're hearing news about, but also the level of write-down on the Greek PSI and whether you can ring-fence that and isolate the likes of Spain and Italy as well in terms of concerns over that area of things too.